Dís maríomh agus fáilte roimh go GAA Gold an pad chréile an srás seo líne ina bheith míad na siar na cluichí móra amána agus pelle os na hochtódaí. Tá 98 sriste going agus tá áthas ar bhfuil an líne ó ar na mí a bhfuil créibh na hhéir an bblion sin tá Colm Ó Ruirtling. Díobh Colm.
Díos mar go léir.
Agus chomá ó ar na gaiileh a bhfuil créibh na hamána don dara blion as a chéile tá Noel Laneling. Conas le tú Noel?
Tá go bhá, díos mar go.
Dis mar go tain agus tá an Tíriseoir Sport Macdara McDonagh ling freisin. Hi Macdara.
Mike, tá go
And the Vaharfad Garmagat. Colm, we might start with yourselves because this was a momentous year for Meath football. It was the first time that you won the league and championship double, and of course the Leinster Championship in between them. But bearing in mind all the controversy and the fallout that happened after the final and the replay against Cork, do you think that people have overemphasized what happened in those two matches and maybe demeaned the overall achievement of winning the double?
I don't think we passed too much remarks on what people had to say anyway. For us, there was massive satisfaction. Obviously, it was an unusual thing because we had continued from 87, trained right through the winter of 88, because I think the feeling in the camp was that there was a lot of us old and that we needed to strike while the iron was hot, and that whatever was on offer for the next few years, that we better win it, because there was quite a few of the team over 30 at that time. So time was running out for us, and obviously we were very keen. None of us had won a league except Joe Cassis from 75. So we're all keen to win the league. It was a bigger competition at the time because all counties were involved in the latter stages of it. It was an unusual thing at that time. Teams from the 4th Division and 3rd Division could compete in the league proper. So we were very keen to win it. And then, of course, after winning the league, we went straight into the championship. And it was also very unusual in that the league final went to a replay and the championship final went to a replay. So it was a long, tough year. And by the end of 88, we were a sort of a spent force. We needed a bit of recharging because, again, the league started before Christmas again in 88. So there was almost no rest after the All-Ireland because it wasn't played till October. And the league started almost immediately again.
And Noel, for yourselves in Galway, you had been on the road as well for a long time. I suppose losing All-Irelands in 79, 81, 85 and 86, if I'm not mistaken. And you'd won the one in 80 and then the one in 87. So time was starting to run out, wasn't it, for this Galway team too? And you needed a big win that year.
Well, you were talking about a different squad really in the mid-80s. The older squad, 75 to 81. We played in 79, 80 and 81 All-Irelands, and I suppose lost 2-1-1, which wasn't a bad return overall. We would feel that we left 79 in particular behind us and awfully caught us in 81 with the late goal. Then that team disbanded and a few of us kind of translated into the newer era, 85 to 90 team. So they were quite young like when we were beaten in 85 and 86, and were still eager enough and hungry enough to go on 87, 88 and later 90. But I think after 1991 then, as Colm said, that particular squad was spent. But really, I suppose I was lucky enough to be on both squads. I was young enough to be on the first one and getting old enough to be on the second one.
All right. Agus Macdara, siopli yn y fisais esgyd dŵl, nach ref, mar ni gynnoch da orna amana agus pella tacht yr ash an flian dar gion agus yn chref a fwch yn jyrich. Nach wyt ti'n cart?
Byn yn lle siacht o siacht an flian diarnach. Nor wwy amana ha chorca agus pellador I vlac clia. Fi mar chwrra o siacht o she. Sy'n flian diarnach a horla se sin agus. But fi an da orn in uachtar ag an am. Fi pellador in mi chun cín ar éan eile agus bhí mána na gaiileh chun cín chumá. Agus tarlíonn sin go mín tréimhsí maithe ag fórna sa tháinig an dá réibse le chéile.
Well, bhí anna réibse can na mí mar ní bháin gur bhuad ar créibh na hhéireann in 8-7 ach mar a dúir Colm Hannah isteach sa trachamórtas in 8-8 agus tréis leibh cóscóir a bheittheá le bla clia sa chluthe canis 5-7 níos déanaí thug de raig ar a chéile éon uair amháin eile I bhorcan chrucaigh.
McCaffrey, who's a London-based doctor, commutes regularly from London to train with the Dublin team. Taken comfortably by Vinnie Murphy in the left-half forward position. Is this the opening score? It is. Low inside towards Colm O'Rourke. Oh, very near to being a goal. It is now. And it's Brendan Riley who scored it. In the Dublin half-forward line, there's a player lying down injured. Vinnie Murphy, there's another one just a couple of yards beyond him again. And I wonder, is that Kieran Duff? The referee has taken the name of Kevin Foley over there. He's sending him off. Transferring to Hayes. Open space in front of him, pursued by Tim O'Driscoll, about to come into shot. A great goal! A marvellous penetrating run by Liam Hayes, and a brilliant execution. And there it is. Meath succeed in adversity. The Royal Ivor Football League title has been won by the All-Ireland champions, the county's 5th league win. Meath 2 goals and 13 points. Dublin 11 points.
Colm, first league title for Meath since '75, which was the year before I think you joined the panel. What are your reflections and memories of that particular victory? It was comfortable enough, wasn't it, in the replay, despite the draw, obviously finishing level?
Yeah, we played poorly in the drawn game. Dublin should have won it. And then, of course, there was an all-star trip to America. And there was a lot of controversy over that. And I think that there was some sort of story without that the Meath fellas were trying to beat up Kieran Duff in America, whatever. It was all rubbish because I never heard or saw or had any idea that this went on, because I didn't go on the trip, but I have spoken to a lot of lads since, and they said that this sort of thing never happened. But there was an edge to it anyway, because the match in America, Kevin Foley and Kieran Duff, I think, were dug in each other, as they would have been in quite a few games. And when it came to the replay, then there was that incident where you saw Kevin Foley sent off. I'd say it was a typical scene where the Dubs were trying to bully Meath at the time, and we had to respond. Obviously, Mick Lyons and Liam Harnan and Kevin Foley and those sort of, they were shrinking violets and they were being pushed around a lot. So I suppose they probably decided that they needed to stand up for themselves. But the second game was a fantastic, I think it was probably our best performance in the second half of any game in that era. A brilliant goal there from Liam Hayes, and the team overall with 14 men really played well. And as it turned out, it was a sort of a great example of how to play with 14 men, which served us well in the All-Ireland final, because we ended up with 14 men for most of the All-Ireland final. So one game gave us a great lesson on how to set up for the other.
And Colm, on that, we often saw in that era that the team with 14 men would beat the team with the 15 men. Was that a lack of, say, tactical awareness at the time? Because it seems to me, at least nowadays, that it happens much less frequently, that somebody manages to figure out how to play the extra man. But back then, it just wasn't done as often. Yeah,
I'd say you're quite right there, Mike. I'd say that the possession-type football now suits the team with 15, because they'll hold on to the ball and hold on to it and be patient and wait for openings to appear. At that time, people were still playing quite traditional football, and a lot of the time it was easy enough to cover up. You moved as many men back as you could, left maybe 3 forwards up, and played on the counter-attack. Whereas nowadays, I think most teams would hold on to the ball with 15 and create openings and keep you running all over the place. Instead of that, at that time, a team with 14 were fairly, it wasn't as big a disadvantage.
Okay, well, bogam do felga hamáint mar sin den géadúir tróna agus cluichí leithcheannis na hÉireann, agus den géadúir le fada bhí Tibredáran treis craobh na móin a thuirt away Loha agus thugad ar siúd isteach, well, den dara bliain as a chéile bh ceart mar bhí craobh na móin buaite ag Tibredáran, ach bhí de siúd ag géirí cáilú anisteach le ceannis na hÉireann éintrim a has idir iad agus an áite.
Tip a point behind early in the game. It's gone in. It went in somehow, despite the best efforts of the cornerback, and Fox has goals. Standing on ceremony, getting it out first time to Terence McNaughton, left half back. Up it goes towards the other McNaughton. It's a goal by Alcon McFetridge. Fergus Barr, meanwhile. Declan Phillip. It's come down. Danny McAllister, it's another goal! Another goal! Declan McKillop is dispossessed. It runs on to Nicky English from Pat Fox. Can he finish? Oh, he can! That's a smashing goal. Well, that's his trademark, surely. Great finishing, and Tip lead by a goal again. Fox, challenged by Terence McNaughton. Trying to get it inside onto his left-hand side, and he's goaled. Tipperary's third goal, Fox's second. Tipperary have qualified for their first All-Ireland hurling final for 17 years. Victory came with the final scoreline of Tipperary 3 goals and 15 points, Antrim 2 goals and 10.
Noel, that was played as a part of a double header with yourselves and Offaly above in Croke Park, so obviously you weren't looking at that game. But what did you feel in general about Tip and the nature of them coming? I suppose they'd won Munster the previous year, lost the semi-final, but they were back in the final now for the first time since 1971, and they were obviously going to play yourselves. Were they the team that you knew were coming and that you'd fear, or that you knew that you were going to have to grapple with for a number of years?
We didn't fear them. We didn't fear them, that's for sure. But we were fully aware of the quality of the team, and with Babs over them, we had Babs in Galway on a few occasions before that. I know his coaching ability and the organisation he brought about, the dressing room and that. Excuse me. But Antrim were a very formidable team as well at that time, and proved it later. The following year went on and beat Offaly in the All-Ireland semi-final and contested the All-Ireland again against Tip. But I think in that particular game against Antrim, Pat Fox and Nicky English wreaked havoc. There were two probably of the best forwards at the time, and two of the greatest holding forwards of all time, I suppose. And the team overall were top quality, and we kind of knew that. Farrell had that drilled into us, and we were expecting what was coming down the tracks. Lucky enough to get over them in '87 in the semi-final, and then the '88 final was the big showdown.
Agus Magdara the Hibredor and Marador ben Rashla Clehe Canish the Gaydor La Fada. Categorif Sketamini more of Einton Ahoita, Fechan Ragadin Clehe Canish, and Agus Gemini Currentish in the Stacher Orna, Trish Brishamore Father Verashik Clehe Canish, and Dolaka Hirsch Stacher Tip Riven Clehe Canish.
Kinchen near Hudge Hello, Agus near Hudge Kudgun stuff a Durt, Ear Imnorig Hibredor, Durt is coming on Nurch John Doyle, tip of a divine right to win this All Ireland. Let's go halfwards. Ach, Currentish Díchas brise in ein restaurant a gimmert in the night. But vi Tipperary needs far enough to hocht the mar vi an 8-7 mar vi Declan Ryan took a stahaka agus vi John Leahy took a stahaka agus vi needs far more runs vi the fauso on Tamar Fad ach vi lads na gaile raid o sin agus fekam an dar clip le canish gan couple nomad. So better a host of blian vi she and non kon da orange and bullet in the chéile.
All right, well, in Sangleha Lachanish, Ella le Tibredor and 3 Gedin Clehe Canish Marshin, be the Rochan the Fear de Moor and the Hishish in a Hogaig Erichela. I Folly, a Vigan hours Trish Crave the hair in the Vochen Kupla or Snahochtodi, a Hogaig or Gailav, a Vigiri Kailud and Glehe Canish, then Garu Blian Asichela.
Should be 2 points to 1 after this shot. Oh, he's gone for the top corner of the goal! Speculatively so, and Offaly have a goal. The Offaly backs group well, and that's Martin Hannamy chipping it away, but a bad one. It comes straight out to Anthony Cunningham. Trying to get it inside to Lane, shot blocked, and it's a goal by Ian O'Ryan. Blocked down, it reaches the arms of Ian O'Ryan, swings in towards Noel Lane. Is he looking for another goal? I'm sure he is, and he's got it too. Galway's second goal. To it, Ian O'Ryan, the star of last year's semi-final, drills it in low, searchingly and probingly in towards the full forward line. Martin Naughton's there. Is there a second goal to kill off Offaly's chances? There is! A second goal in the space of a minute. In modern hurling, Brendan Keeshan drops in searchingly towards Pat Delaney, and it's a goal for Offaly. Precisely what the game has required. It's going to be a hot ball. Mark Corrigan goes dangerously. It's another goal for Pat Delaney. And Galway, the All-Ireland champions, are through to another All-Ireland final. At the end, it's 3-18 to 3-11.
So 7-point win there, Noel, for yourselves. And you had a great day. Had you won 5, I think you got?
Yeah, you wonder looking at that, how did we win it? I mean, Offaly got so many goals as well. Pat Delaney up centre forward for that game and gave Tony Keady a lot of trouble on that particular day. But yeah, we finished up winning the game. Offaly an outstanding team at that period as well, and very hard to beat them.
No, would it be fair to say, Noel, sorry, that in 84, Offaly ended that Galway era of 75 to 81, and in 88, really, ye ended that first Offaly team. You buried them really that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a fair comment, I suppose. You know, lucky enough, got a good supply that day. I was captain in 86 and had a poor All Ireland, and I thought that was the end of my career. But Fadl came to me and said, look, we need you going forward with these young lads. So I was very happy to play the sub role in 87 after the disappointments of 86. But, in 88 then got on the first 15 again for the semi-final and had a great game and was really looking forward to the All-Ireland.
And then what happened, Noel? How did it come to pass then that you didn't start the All-Ireland?
Well, I suppose Fadl before his time maybe thinking of maybe finishing with a stronger team or whatever, but having scored 1-5 in the semi-final and to be back in Ballinasloe training on the Tuesday night before the All-Ireland, and Cyril kind of comes within about 20 metres of me and kind of shouts, "Oh no, we're not starting you." And he was gone again pretty quickly, and rightly so, because I think I had a few steps towards him. But look, it was disappointing. It was a bit of a shock really, because I was expecting, of course, it was really back and forth. But then had a few pints and relaxed and.
How many pints?
Just 2 or 3.
At a time.
At a time. But went back to Cyril on the Thursday night and said, look, this is not about me, this is about the team, and whatever you've done, you're obviously doing for the good of Galway Hurling, and swallowed it, and then got the chance on the Sunday, and the rest is history, I suppose. But it was disappointing, and it still probably is the one thing in my career that guts me a little bit. But look, we won the All-Ireland, and at the end of the day, that's what was important from a Galway perspective.
That was before the time where you had the sort of impact subs. It was at that time you were either on the first 15 or you were a sub. It was a very marked delineation. Like Dublin and different teams have now made what you're talking about, the stronger team finishing the game. But at that time, nobody would have ever thought of that. So maybe Cyril Farrell was before his time.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Yeah, he obviously got it right that day. And I think we seen Tyrone doing it with Peter Canavan, where they started him and took him off and brought him back on again. So finishing that at the business end of a match, Colin, as you know, the last 5 minutes and injury time of an All-Ireland final, when you want guys there with the killer instinct and the finishers, and just get you over the line. And in fairness to Fadl, and I would never be that bitter to him over it. But as I said, it was the right decision at the time from a Galway perspective.
Carcalor. Okay, so Galv mar sin trí go cléthe canis na Héireann agus thuirdí steiger hibredáran sa cléthe canis sin. Mada le cuasaí pelle, well, si chéad ceandas na cléthe lechanis le Éireann, den géadú a riamh sa chréibh chomórtas, cas Corcaig agus muoinechan ar I chéile.
Seamus Pryor from Leitrim gets this first of the All-Ireland football semi-finals underway, and it's Bernie Murray. Paddy Linden, who hasn't conceded a goal in this year's All-Ireland series. Shea Fahy takes it down with poise, releases it to Paul McGrath, and there it sails over the bar. The first score has come off the boot of Paul McGrath. Jerry McCarville just gets it down to Brendan Murray, runs into 2 Cork players, then releases it. Barry Coffey here. Thought about a pass inside for Dave Berry. Good position. Oh, great goal! A goal for Cork, 6 minutes into the second half. McEnany in towards Nugie Hughes. Eamon Murphy. Oh, it's wide. Monaghan's best chance without any doubt. His jersey held. plays on, releases it inside towards Michael McCarthy, back to Paul McGrath, and that sails over the bar. Paul McGrath's got his 3rd point. That's it. And Cork are in the All-Ireland final for the 17th time. Cork, the winners, by 1 goal and 14 points. Monaghan, 6 points.
As I said, an All-Ireland medal is something that eludes everyone on the team. There's not one of us with a senior All-Ireland medal. And I'm afraid the rest of the medals aren't worth anything, really. There's only one medal worth winning, and that's an All-Ireland football medal.
Hey, Colm, that Cork team were there for the 2nd time in a row, and I suppose the goal that they got, the Dave Barry goal, controversial and all as it was, it didn't really matter. It was a comfortable enough win in the end. But Barry was an addition in '88 that Billy Morgan hadn't had in '87. Did he make much of a difference to that Cork forward line?
Certainly did, and of course Dinny Allen had come back in there as well. Billy Morgan, of course, was a great manager, and I think has been proven since that. And Billy, of course, used to get into plenty of scraps with people, and he even did in the All-Ireland final. But on a personal level, I had always enjoyed a good relationship with Billy, and still do, and still think very highly of him. I think he's a great manager. And Allen and Barry added to the forward line. And Monaghan, you know, they were beaten in that semi-final. Monaghan were the nearly team of that era. We'd beaten them in the Centenary final in '84. They had won a league final. They were beaten by Kerry in an All-Ireland semi-final replay. And I often said to those Monaghan players when we meet them, they could easily have gotten an All-Ireland in that time. But then we and Cork sort of took over in the late 80s, and it was a fairly sharp sort of scene between the two of us, because there were some fairly bitter battles, and time heals everything. But in the late 80s and up to 90, certainly there was no love lost between the two teams.
All right, well, the an dair an treis casa ar chéile insinglethe canis an bhí an Raison. An darloch sé ríist, well, Corcaigh tréad ach bheachar an bhí an lábhan uachtar áil ar bhuió le né sinna chintu sich le heile cheannis eile.
We all take our football seriously in Rio.
Yeah, and what about Willie Joe? He'll go even higher if he comes.
Mayo this afternoon playing in red with green trimming. Meath changed to gold with green banding and green shorts. Beggy belts it forward towards Brian Stafford. The one man they can depend on in a crisis. Oh, he did it well. Over the bar, he's their only scorer and he's restored their lead. 3 players around him, and the ever-alert Brian Stafford there too is Matty McCabe turning on the right boot, and that sails over. McCabe's first point. Joe Lindsay's loose inside, but he's held up. And elected to kick to Dennis Carney, who's now playing up around the half-forward line. Fisted down into space. They waited for it, weren't expecting it. McHale, the shot, a goal! Carney. 6.5 minutes to go. Dennis Carney in. McCullen ponders, mixes, and Finnerty dispatches it to the back of the net. Oh, what a turnabout! A minute and a half remaining. Martin Carney inside towards Liam McHale again! But the referees was to say, it sounds no goal, no goal. He was inside in the square. The goal doesn't count. And there it is. It's Meath who go forward to the All-Ireland final. The county's 11th appearance in the decider. It's Meath, 16 points. Mayo, 2 goals and 5.
Very disappointed. If we got that goal, the one that I scored, I think I was in the square. If we got that goal, we might have made a better
Fair
game.
enough, but a tremendous last quarter comeback. You could hardly believe it at half time, could you?
We wasted too many chances in the second half. We wasted a lot of chances at the start of the first half as well. You won't beat Meath if you miss a lot of chances.
But you covered yourselves in glory with that tight fight back in the second half.
It's no good when you lose.
No good when you lose. There was Liam McHale and Colm. I suppose we saw that when they came back, and they did actually get to the final, of course, the following year. But that was one that you were coasting, weren't you? And you kind of let Meath back into it towards the latter stage of the second half.
Yeah, we had I think we were about 10 points up with a short time to go, and they all got 2 goals. And of course, Liam McHale panned in that one as well near the end, which would have made it very hairy. I think we won by 4 or 5, but we were nearly caught. I think we had total control of that game for long periods of time, and it was probably a lesson to us as well, not to take your foot off the gas.
Okay, Carculor so tá an bhí agus carcaigh mar sin chun go hurtar I chéile insan gluthe canis sin a chanis go cluthe canis na Hamana. And Noel, you're already after referencing the way that Cyril Farrell broke the news to you that having scored 1-5 in the semi-final, you were dropped for the final. So that bit between the Tuesday when you were told and the Sunday, just for yourself, what was that like to readjust to your role now as potentially playing the impact sub?
It was difficult, I suppose. Wednesday was a very, soul-searching day. What was I going to do? What was my attitude going to be? And I think it was Thursday evening on my way to training that I decided I was going to go to Cyril and assure him that if I was needed, I'd be in the right place. And that, this was about the team. And Cyril, I think, he was a bit worried about me up to that, but when we had that conversation on the Thursday evening, I think Cyril was happy enough that I'd be available in the right attitude. And the build-up then after that, I had only one thing in my mind, that when I would get a chance, like we had a tremendous team, and it wasn't, as I said earlier, about me. We had an outstanding team with 20 great players, and I had no divine right, no more than anybody else, to be on that team. So that's kind of the way I felt about it after Thursday. And look, at 15 guys that are going out are picked on merit, and if I'm called on, well then hopefully I'll add value to the team as well in the game. So I was really chomping at the bit to get out there, and but it was a marvellous match. I mean, backs dominated in that game. I remember watching the first half of the sideline, and I was saying, if you get out there, you're going to earn it, because I think we scored 115 that day, and our defence and midfield scored 9 of that 115. They scored 9 points. Keady got 2, and McInerney got 2, Conor Hayes got 2, and Pat Malone got 3 from midfield. So we weren't really motoring well up front, but the tip backs were on top, as we were. We had an outstanding half back line, as everyone knows, Finnerty, Keady and McInerney. But anytime you're talking out in the same dressing room as them lads, and playing in an All-Ireland final with them was a great honour. And look, I was privileged to be part of that.
And what about, you mentioned earlier on the danger that Nicky English and Pat Fox were going to pose, and the full back line played really well on them, didn't they?
Well, Conor was outstanding. He was a great captain, and he had a great presence in the square. And when you'd see Conor down training in Athenry, you'd be wondering, like, how was he being picked? Because that's the way Conor was. Like, he was cool out, and he wouldn't have the choke out or anything below Athenry. You'd be looking at other lads in the subs that'd be fighting for that berth. But Conor was on merit, on match day. He had a great game that day. He held Nicky English very well. And Ollie Kilkenny on the other corner, like you'll hear talks of being on Sylvie and being on Finnerty and those guys. But the one guy you didn't want to be on in training was Ollie Kilkenny. And Pat Fox that day, I think he held him scoreless, if I remember correctly. And I don't think Nicky scored either none of them scored from play, I think. And they were the twin threat, really, from a tip perspective. And to hold those guys, there was a great chance to get over the line, and we just about did.
All right, well, fech mi derek le hecanish mar sin, agus den géadúr o néideag 7 héin bhí Tibredoran a rasach le hecanish iad héin agus Gaileh a lurug Coran Vicoric.
Authority in the middle, and that's Ian O'Ryan who puts it over the bar. Keady breaks it down, came off Aidan O'Ryan up to Nicky English. Looked at the post and he pushes it over the bar. His 4th point, the first to come from play, their inspirational leader. It's again Paul Delaney. Down towards Paul McBonner. Donny O'Connell there too. A shot and Conan saves. A great shot by Fox was saved by John Common. Towards Noel Lane it comes, battling with Conor O'Donovan. Lane! A goal! No Lane! So Nicholas English, the team captain. He belts it over the bar. And there it is! Galway complete a fabulous 2 in a row by retaining their title. Galway, 1 goal and 15 points. Tipperary, 14 points.
me keen to fuss. Go on, no me show fear. No. Not will me and Cullen.
Well, Jerry McInerney, was it worth coming back from America for this?
That was, of course, needless to say.
And you had another marvellous game. Did you enjoy the game, or could you think about enjoying yourself and expressing yourself?
Well, you enjoy the game a lot. Really enjoyed the most game now.
And the second All-Ireland for you now. Is there any different feeling from last year, or is it just joy and happiness?
No. Next year again.
Right. And will you be going back to the States? All Galway's one.
All depends now. We'll see, after a few years.
Yeah, well done, Jerry. Well done.
No, Jerry, not a great man for an interview there, but he put Jim Carney through his paces. What was it like? Tell us, for the second year running, you're brought in off the bench, you score a goal, a crucial goal in the All-Ireland final. That jump there at the end in front of the canal end and the roar from the Galway supporters. I mean, it must have made the pain of not being selected a little bit easier to deal with.
I did, but I suppose looking at it there, Nicky English did get a point from play actually. And again, the forwards that we had, Joe Coney, like one of the greatest ever, Martin Naughton, Éanna Ryan, Coleman and Malone midfield. While I give a lot of credit to the defence earlier on, we had great hurlers up front as well, and guys gave their all. And I think Tony Kilkenny came on for Anthony Cunningham or Martin Naughton, I'm not sure which. And it was a lovely delivery, a lovely weighted ball that came in, and just happened to get the wrong side from Conor O'Donovan's perspective, the wrong side of him, the right side from myself.
No, I have a question for you now. 32 years on, right? All the talk was about Derby and the little nudge he might have given Tommy Doyle in 82. Did you give Conor just the smallest little nudge there before the ball came in?
Well, as Colin O'Rourke would know, when you were on backs like that, you had to fight your corner, and sometimes you had
Enough said.
Push the weight around a bit. But Conor is a gentleman, and we see that goal a lot, and it was a great, I suppose, moment from my personal perspective and the Galway perspective. But any time I'd meet Conor, I'd say, geez, will they ever stop showing that goal? Because it must be terrible for him. But he was an outstanding player, Conor, and just got caught wrong-footed, and the finish was easy then. But it was a great feeling, yeah. And but the important thing was that we had put back-to-back All-Irelands, and the bad memories of 85 and 86 were buried, and we were looking forward to maybe going for the 3 in a row. We were brought up in the diet of Galway football, great 3 in a row team of 64, 5 and 6, and they were a marvellous team. And I suppose it was the start of television and the first time that we seen those guys in our sitting rooms. But to have the chance of going on and winning 3 in a row was something really to look forward to in 89, and that was a real driving force for us in 89.
Sin Scéal Eile, the Keady affair of 89 put paid to that. Okay, Colm, I just want to ask before we move on to the football, used you go up, were you a hurling man, would you head up to see the All-Ireland?
Yeah, I would have been at all those hurling finals. I was a great admirer of the Galway team. I thought in many ways that Galway and Meath were similar, that there was a great bit of fighting spirit about Galway, and they seemed to just get on with. And the likes of Keady and McInerney and the Conleys, I always thought they had admirable personal qualities. I always admired the fact, and with Noel there as well, that when they were beaten, they never complained. They just went home, they drowned their sorrows, and they got ready to come back again and again. And they lost probably more than they won, but there was a lot of linkages between Galway and Meath, because there's an awful lot of Galway people living in Meath. There's a Galway association in Navan, and they used to always have a big dinner every year. And so there was very close links between the team. Now, obviously, I would have known a lot of them. Now, Noel would be a lot older than me. He'd be 10 or 12 years older than me. So obviously, I'd grown up watching him playing in big games as well. But there was certainly great admiration and great linkages between the two counties.
Okay. Coming into the football final then, Colm, I suppose Cork had noted the previous year's experience, and I think he made reference to it. I remember in Liam Hayes' book, he made reference to the lessons he had learned in the 86 semi-final against Kerry, that one thing was the Kerry team were very skillful. The other thing that was that the Kerry team had very much physicality about them as well. And you brought that into the 87 final against Cork, and Cork were smarting a bit from that. So they really threw the kitchen sink at you, didn't they, in that 88 drawn game? Did that catch you a little bit unawares?
It did, and we played badly, and Cork were the better team in the drawn match. And it's quite true, like when you look at the Kerry team and you look at Paddy O'Shea and Tim Kennelly and Jimmy Deenahan and people like that, like they could mix it rough and smooth. And in the drawn game, Cork hit us hard. And I think we sort of eased off because we were a very physical team. We were a big, strong team. And I got a bad wallop in the first game, and Brian Stafford got one, and Mick Lyons was decked in the game as well. So I think that the sort of message was, cut out the fancy stuff and go back to playing our normal type of game for the replay.
All right. Well, bhí cúlua ag Corcaig agus Anna Húsacha in Sinclair agus fecha mi den ish na bóg fointi in ish. So Corcaig agus an bhí le chéile ag le Canis na Héireann.
First All-Ireland final, nice ball inside. McCarthy's moved inside, Teddy McCarthy shot, it's a goal! Tackled by Tony Nation. And Meath have taken the lead for the first time in the match. With Colm O'Rourke's second point in this game. Martin O'Connell, but it breaks back to Larry Tompkins. A player outside him if he wants to release it. Tompkins going for the shot. The score, and the sides level again. Did anything come of it, and as it didn't, it's going to be a free to Meath. Stafford trying to get onto it. McEntee toe pokes it forward to Colm O'Rourke on that cultured left foot, and it's over the bar. And it's just a 1-point game. This is O'Connell. Can they get on level terms? Cork must not foul. Meath must get a point. It's a free in. Is engulfed. 1-9 for Cork, 11 points for Meath, 45 seconds into injury time, and the sides are level. I'm headed there as well, but now I wonder, it's there. The referee leaves the game with the Cork players protesting about that last decision. It ends in a draw. The first time since 1972.
Well, it is an anticlimax, all right. You never think of a draw. You prepare yourself for a winner. You prepare yourself to lose. If you do lose, so it's a bit up in the air at the moment, But I think in 48 hours we'll have recovered and to just get out there again and do the same thing again,
You've just got 2 weeks now, but presumably you won't do a lot of hard work in those 2 weeks.
I hope you go out and tell Billy Morgan that. I don't think I'd be able for another 2 weeks of his type of training.
2 weeks actually ended up becoming 3, which helped Larry Tompkins' hamstring column because he had to head off to Manchester to Old Trafford to get his hamstring mended. Cork were outraged, I think it's fair to say, with the final couple of minutes of that particular game and the Safri, as they saw it, that Brian Stafford converted. Were they justified, Colm?
I don't know. I think it was a blatant foul, but we were also, we thought that Tommy Sugru had given Larry Tompkins an easy free to put Cork in front. So, I suppose we didn't complain at the time. We didn't say anything, and we just got on with our business. I had got a very bad wallop. I ended up spending a week in hospital as well at that time. I got a bad bang on the head and suffered bad concussion. So there was a bit of soreness about our camp too, that Cork were sort of painted as a team that played lovely football and we were the hard men. We didn't think it was entirely fair, but from that point of view, the games between Cork and Meath were being ratcheted up. We also met them in a league semi-final. We'd meeting them in a lot of games there, and there was plenty of personal battles going on. And again, as I said, the passage of time, sometimes it appears silly, but no more than Galway and Tip in the hurling at that time. You need and Dublin and Kerry a bit earlier. Like anybody that would tell you that everybody on both those teams were great friends at the time would be telling lies, because you need that bit of edge to bring out the best in everybody in battle. And of course, as I say, unfortunately, since that time, Cork have lost a couple of players, and those sort of things put everything back in perspective. But it seems about 3 weeks ago since we were playing those games, and I always, like Noel said, it was a privilege to play. I always felt it was a great privilege to represent Meath, and you should never meet your heroes, we are told. I was lucky. From my point of view, I played with them, And those sort of fellas that I played with, to my mind, they will always be men of great calibre.
Colin, I'm just wondering, at that time, did you look back at the draw game on the TV, or did you just talk about it?
I think we looked at it just once, maybe, and that was it. And I remember we had a meeting on the morning after the drawn game. We had stayed in Malahide in Dublin. We had a chat the following morning, and I think it sort of set the tone. The training, like you were saying about the game, went back 3 weeks. There was a bike race in Ireland at the time, and the thing was postponed, which meant for a huge long year for us with the league replay and now an All-Ireland replay going into October. It was a very long year. And like Dini Allen was talking about the training, people wondered, should we train more, should we train less? Sean, I think, decided that he was going to have a couple of weeks of hard training. And I remember the weekend before the final, we went up to the replay, we went up to Dundalk, and we trained up there, and it was savage hitting in a game beforehand. There was about half a dozen fellas injured, and then we went out on the night, the Saturday night, and we went out for a few drinks, which became a few more drinks, and we had a right night. Like, if lads did that now, a week before an All-Ireland, went out and had a savage night out and went to a nightclub and enjoyed all the crack, it would be all over the media. But we could do it, and we got away with it. We had great fun. And I think that was the genius of Sean Boylan. I don't think he ever mentioned, ever, to anyone, don't drink or don't do this, don't do that. In fact, he'd be the last to go to bed at night. He'd be in the middle of all the crack, but he wouldn't be drinking. But he let us let our hair down and enjoy ourselves, and it reduced the tension in the team. So I think there was a calmness about him which sort of came across to everybody.
And Colm, just I suppose one important footnote to the draw was that the replay was unusually, it doesn't happen nowadays, of course, but the Tommy Sugru, who refereed the draw, was also set up to referee the replay. I wonder, did that come against Cork in any way, that they had been, you basically walked away at the end of the draw and got on with your business, whereas Cork were, pretty vociferous in their complaints about the referee's performance the first day?
Yeah, well, we had no problem with Tommy Sugar. Was one of the top referees at the time, and Paddy Lane, they were the two fellas doing a lot of the games, and we were quite happy. We never had any complaints about any referee. We just said, well, the ref is something that you have no control over. So you control your own team and you control other things, the weather, the ref, things like that, you just get on with it. But definitely Tommy Sugar was under a deal of pressure coming up to the game. And of course, he was a Kerry man, so he was a bit closer. And the first big decision that he had to make then in the replay was sending off.
Okay, and fair me there sin anish. So trí haftan tréisian có scór mar sin chas an bhí agus corcaigh ar chéile agus má bhí an chéad chluithe fisiciúil níor a feice going fós.
Captain down towards Dave Barry, lets it bounce but collects the second time. Good chance of a score, and that's gone sailing over. PJ Gillick unable to hold that. That's Niall Cahalane, and there was a wild fist that time, and the referee going back there trying to sort this one out, and Jerry McEntee is the player that he's trying to get a word with. Some of the others are shaping up to one another as well. It's Jerry McEntee then that the referee has gone across to take his name. And he's been sent off, Jerry McEntee, after just 6.5 minutes. Conor Coonahan, Bernard Flynn here, belting it towards David Beggy. This is a good build-up. Cork have been tending to drift in towards the man on the ball, leaving a loose player, and it's exploited by a free-running Meath attack towards David Beggy. They're playing with confidence now, looking to extend their lead. And they've stretched it to a 2-point advantage thanks to Beggy. The referee is calling for the ball, and it's all over. Meath are still the All-Ireland champions. It ended Meath 13 points, Cork 12. He's 15 years a Meath player, and today he enjoys his proudest moment. Joe Castles very proudly takes the new Sam Maguire from Meath.
Sweet day.
Yes, I'd say it's probably the finest day I'd say this Meath team has ever had. We won the All-Ireland last year. We won the league with 14 men, but this I think tops it all. It was a very sorry blow to lose Jerry so early on, but as we showed in the league final, we showed now we knuckled down and done the job, and we done a good one.
Yeah, Colm, you lost Jerry McEntee to that red card after it was the 7th minute, so you had a huge amount of the game still ahead. Did Cork play Tony Davis, I think, as a spare man, and you just see everybody's just seemed to knuckle down, as Brian Stafford said there, and get the job done?
Yeah, well, again, as I was saying earlier, the experience of the league final was very valuable, where we had 14 from the first half of that game as well. But, setting out to play 64 or 5 minutes of an All-Ireland final with 14 men, it's a big ask. But we had the shape of the team from the league final, so I drifted out a bit, and it left Bernard Flynn and Brian Stafford sort of more isolated up front, which gave them a good bit of room. Cork used possession badly, and they had plenty of the ball, and they kicked a lot of bad wides in the game as well. But it was a really tough, hard, and when you look back at it, it wasn't a good game, but obviously we weren't complaining about it. But Cork were well fit for Meath in terms of physicality at the time. It's not as if we pushed them out of the way. That was a really good Cork team, and they went on to win the next 2 All-Irelands, which showed how good they were. So, they could mix it, they could play good football. Cork were in 4 All-Ireland finals in a row at that time, when it meant beating Kerry every year to get there. So, and nobody should ever look down on Cork as anything but a superb outfit at that time, and we were just glad to get over it. It was a real battle, but it was fantastic satisfaction. Jerry McEntee would have been a very close friend of mine. So when he was sent off, it would have, I think, angered and annoyed everybody, because he was such a leader among the Meath team. So everybody, I think, had decided that whatever they had to do, it had to be superhuman effort, win or lose, to try and make up for the man that was gone.
You got a point that Colm with the right foot. A rarity.
A rarity, yes. It is the one of my few scores with my right foot, and as I think it turned out to be the last point that Meath got, and it proved to be a very valuable one. But it was unusual.
Colm, the aftermath of the game was pretty rancorous as well. I think both sides had words to say with each other. The Cork team would have accused the Meath players of being pretty unsportsmanlike coming off the field. Whether you can throw any light on that or not. The following day at the lunch where the players used to typically gather at the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham, some of the Cork team didn't even show up for that. So it started to really set a sort of a bitter seed between the two sides at that point, didn't it?
It did, and it continued on to the All-Ireland final of 1990, which of course Cork won, and then it continued for a bit after that, I think, as well. And I certainly wouldn't like to think that I contributed anything to that. I don't think I said anything about individual Cork players, but it just was a feeling. And if you're after losing an All-Ireland final, it's a fairly sorry day, and it's hard to put up with. So, I don't think any Meath player held anything much against Cork players. I think what we probably felt at the time was that maybe they should have held their voice for a few days and let things settle. We all react, and maybe the Meath fellas might have made comments which weren't very nice either. So, we all had a part to play in it, but it's easy to look back with the perspective of these years and say that we were all a bit foolish, and we were, because we were allowing something which was still only a game to become more than that. But Noel would understand, when you're in the midst of something like this, it is life and death, and that is the way you look at it. But the fallout from those games, it didn't reflect well on any of us.
Noel,
just a point there on Colm's point there about what happens on the field stays on the field, and the rivalries that were there, and Cork and Meath that time, there were tremendous games, fierce physical. I remember watching them. It was tough stuff, to say the least. Two great managers, Sean Boylan and Billy Morgan, I'd say, would be driving it as well. But ourselves and Tip had a massive rivalry as well. But you know, to prove the point that, you know, when you go on and get older and you look back, the Lord to mercy in Tony Keeley, when he passed away recently, the whole Tipperary team to a man came up in their suits to that removal, and that shows like the massive camaraderie. And golf is also a great way of mixing with former players and meeting them, and look, at you bury the hatch, you get on with it, you have a couple of pints, you have a laugh about it. But at the time it can be, you know, life and death, as Colm said.
And Colm, you referenced already that you know, it took the unfortunate passing of Michael McCarthy and then John Cairns from the Cork team for the Meath and Cork sides to patch things up. Many years later, how do you get on? Do you meet at all? Because I know Tommy Drum told us that after the 83 final, it took up to 25 years for Galway and Dublin to patch things up properly, and they get on great now. So how do the teams get on at this stage?
Yeah, and I'd say the same would be true of Dublin and Kerry at that time. There was a real sharp rivalry between them. But we get on. Any Cork function, I remember when they had their 25th sort of day from 90 or 89, we all went down as a group. We thought it important that we all would appear to support them when they were having their celebration dinner. And of course we had the funeral as well, and the two funerals. So like, we always felt that it was important that from our side that we would certainly put out the hand of friendship to them, and it has been reciprocated. And as I said before, I always got on great with Billy Morgan, but any function that we had, like, there's no problem. The likes of Conor Coonahan get on great, Barry Coffey, Coleman Corrigan, all these fellas, Nigel Cahalan, who I used to be dug in different games, and he was sent off in the league semi-final afterwards, and we would have really got stuck into each other. If there was anything now you'd ask Nigel Cahalan to do, he would do it, and would do it very willingly. And it's a tremendous tribute to those sort of calibre of players that it wouldn't matter now what to be asked to do. If there was something on that we needed them to show up, they would do so. And the same would be in reverse. We would certainly help them out whenever they needed any.
Colm, a final thought maybe just in relation to that team and maybe the GAA's attitude to the team, because you know, it was a final victory that I know that from that lunch the following day, the GAA president at the time kind of criticised both sides, and perhaps Meath in particular, for the kind of the physicality of the game. I know that Jerry McEntee, I think, and Liam Harnan refused to collect their All-Ireland winning medals, or did they? Was there something about that later on when John Dowling came down to present the medals? And what did you feel about, did the GAA have a sort of a negative outlook in terms of what Meath were doing at the time?
Yeah, well, we certainly felt that we weren't getting a fair crack at the whip. I think there was trips at the time too where Meath could have been included and were excluded, and I suppose maybe, you know, we retreated back into our own little bubble, as it were, and we didn't pass too much remarks on the outside world. But you know, the presentation, there was a lot of bad feeling at that time, certainly in Meath, that we were getting a rough time from the national press and from the GAA at central level. Maybe looking back on it, it was all a bit petty at the time, and you know, maybe we should have been all a bit more mature. But again, when you're in that sort of, we felt we were at war with the world, and that in a way it suits a team. And then you even see it then, like, if the whole world is feeling the whole world is against you, maybe it motivates you even more. But like, we were coming near the end of our time there as well, and it was great to see the likes of Joe Cassels captaining an All-Ireland. He'd been playing from '74, like, he had 14 years experience. And I can quite recall that I brought Jerry McEntee and Joe Cassels to the All-Ireland semi-final the first year we got to it. And the three of us travelled up together to Croke Park. It's unusual now because everybody goes on a bus. And when we were on our way home, we stopped in a drink, and we decided it was good to get to play in an All-Ireland, because we counted between the three of us in '87. We had 40 years of inter-county experience between the three of us, and we were getting to play in our first All-Ireland. So we were fairly hungry for success, and we knew that it wasn't going to last very long. So maybe that drove us that bit more. Maybe drove us over the top at times.
It certainly did. Okay. And Noel, just from your own point of view, 88 ended up being the highlight, actually, as it happens, because 89, the All-Ireland semi-final, lost controversially against Tipperary. 1990, favourites against Cork in the final and lost. And that team kind of drifted away after that. So your final thoughts then from 87 and indeed 88 and that era for Galway?
Actually, we had great times, we had great fun. It wasn't as strict or as scientific as it is now, and you could have the feed of bacon and cabbage during the week, and you could have a few pints of Guinness if you felt like them, no more than Sean Boylan. So Fadl never really, and even the night before a game, sometimes if fellas felt like it, we'd be up in Dublin, of course, the evening before, and maybe we'd go off and have a pint or two, and there was no notice taken. If they slept better, and if they felt better about it, so be it. But with great times, with great fun, with a great setup, and whilst we would like to have one more, I suppose it would have been lovely to have 190. After being beaten in '89, and but unfortunately Cork put pay to that. I think we scored 223 and we're still beaten. A few funny decisions on the day as well, talking about referees, but. Sylvie wasn't on that team and was dropped off the panel that year, and Sylvie gave great service to Galway, and maybe it was a mistake in hindsight. Fadl started me that day and left Brendan Linsky off. I'd say tried the same thing again with Linsky coming on in the finish, which he did and played well, got a great goal. But hindsight is great, and you'd look back and you'd say the days you're bet. If we did this, that and the other. But you must remember that the days you win, you get a bit of luck.
And Noel,
winning All-Ireland.
Noel, is it the same with you as it is with me and nearly everybody? We always remember the games we lost much more than the games we won, and the things we did wrong and decisions that were made and things we should have done in the game. They often sort of scratch at us a bit more, and we forget a little bit about the great days.
That's true, and as was alluded to earlier on, we played in 8 in my career and last 5. So, and we were reminded of a lot of those during the lockdown when they were all on numerous occasions. So you do see the mistakes you make, but you would. But at the end of the day, I think it was playing and being part of it, and the fun of it, and the honour of it. And you can look back at great memories, and I think you're privileged to win an All-Ireland one, like. You see Henry Shefflin winning 10 maybe, and that's great too. And I don't think we've mentioned Kilkenny since the start of the programme. In my era, like Kilkenny were kind of on the downward curve. It was Tip Call went off really in Cork. But, to win an All-Ireland, I've great friends that played hurling and football with their counties and played in All-Ireland and didn't win an All-Ireland. It's a kind of it's a missing link in the career. It's great to have the one. And my heart goes out to those people that put in the same effort for their counties, whether it's hurling or football, and didn't have the honour of winning an All-Ireland. But we love the sport, we lived for it. I lived for the hurling, Colin lived for the football, and we all live for the GAA. And we're looking forward to the whole thing being back to normal again fairly soon.
All right. Well, look, it's Shinsley Dasla, Derek Hurlin, or Gora, and Sutra, no, and then you have Colm O'Rourke, no Lane, Agus McDara, McDonagh, Gurmahagwif, Asfelling, and so Erabad Crealisha, Dirach Le Miarudi, Gemegna Clihi Shin Galer, Agus Clihi Ella, Armriak and Vlian Shin Le Feshkin, Trono, the day down, Ignorveg Derela, GAA Bio, Beg GAA Gold, Ershul, so Kunigi Sulamach, no Shin, Agus Bamidna Rash, and Tafton Chahuin, Le Shabbat Creala, Deranach, then Stra or a Hisha, Fech Tarnadic Ochdone, Gudin Gedorella, Winger Fad, Slon Tom.